was a
Dancing in.
slow intro and eased back in after vacation.
Yes. Yes. So quick how Thanksgiving went.
Right? How are you?
Yeah. Bless. Bless. So much to be
Good.
thankful for, and we talked about a lot before we came on, and you saw how the energy was, and I'm thinking about the challenges and the opportunities we have, and it's really been reminding me of college, how me and my friend Jessica and Shatira sit around. I'm like, I hear you guys complaining about organic chem and all this stuff, but people wish they could be sitting around complaining about college classes right now, so that was a while ago. um but it's never lost on me, the privilege that I have to complain about some of the things that are on a list of things I'm working on this season. So that's what
Mm,
I've been thinking about as different things have come
right?
up. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Acknowledging, yeah, in interplay, we always look for the good, but
Hmm.
it's not, we also know there's things that challenge us and that
Yeah,
it's okay that if we need to whine about those things or dance those things out or because it's both that human experience of both having the grief and the gratitude, and this
yeah.
time of year is a challenge for a lot of folks.
Yeah, and I love it when in interplay, you guys probably do have the space to whine. If it
Hmm.
needs to feel like a whine, then do a whine. And
Hmm.
other life, I'm like, don't do the whine over here.
Right.
Like we don't do whining. We don't do that. Um, but I do
Well,
love the
especially if you
story.
were taught not to whine. I was
You know,
definitely taught not to whine. So
really.
the first, well, I was raised by a football coach in
Yeah.
Texas. Like
Yeah,
they're,
yeah, yeah.
oh no, no whining.
Mm,
But in interplay, we do have this form where you specifically whine. The first time we did it, I thought I was coming out of my skin because when you've gotten in trouble for things as a kid or
yeah,
punished for things,
yeah.
then it, like, anxiety comes up in your body if you're,
Mm,
but then I've played with it more because there are times, and in certain places, like, I'm not a whiner generally, but
no.
sometimes I just need to call somebody and say, do you have 5 minutes, can I whine? Our
Yeah.
guest today is one of those people that I often call. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to whine.
Shout out to our women connected.
Right.
Yeah. And like I would even, I'm always trying to give you credit, always trying to give us some credit back because too much
Hmm.
credit gets taken away. And we talk about it on the podcast a lot that sharing your story, I don't count it as complaining. That's what
Right.
happened. It might sound
Right.
negative, it might not be an ad, but I feel like we're conditioned and socialized that, oh, you're complaining or you're whining if you
Right.
say, hey, this is what happened.
Oh, but what we do in interplay, really,
Yeah.
truly, Shannon, is like we ask people to exaggerate their whine, like get it in
Mm.
your nose, like get it really nasally,
Hmm.
like fully embody your 2-year-old and
Okay.
just like let it out. Because we don't get to do that as adults,
No, we
right?
don't.
We're like,
Yeah.
there's not really spaces for that. And
Mm,
sometimes, I mean, we might do it in the shower or if we're
mm,
crying but
mm.
like to be absurd with it and take
Yeah.
it to the extreme brings
Yeah.
that humor in, right?
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
we all got stuff we could whine about. Like, I
Yeah, yeah.
mean, I
If you
I
wanna
was
whine, you could. Yeah.
I was whining about the cost of coffee the other day. I'm like, I called Cynthia and I was like, tell me how to tell somebody you're old without telling them you're old.
Yeah.
Like, act like your grandmother about the cost of coffee.
Yeah.
But it's true. Hey, should we do our official intro so we can kick this show off?
I wanna do it, but like I said, I'll always fight for more space. What about you? How do you wanna do your intro? It was about me and what I was talking about. You wanna share how you've been
Oh,
over Thanksgiving, or you
sure.
wanna jump in?
I really I got to have just some downtime with my crew. I went hiking at Providence Canyon in Georgia, which is
Mhm.
called the Little Grand Canyon of Georgia. I haven't been to the Big Grand Canyon, so I don't know the difference in scale. That is on my
Mm.
bucket list. It needs to happen.
Yeah.
But
It's on mine too.
we we went and it was stunning. Like, it was
Yeah.
so stunning, I sent a picture and somebody accused me of it being AI, which
Yeah, this picture is amazing.
I took it as the highest compliment
Oh,
that
wow.
I could have fooled somebody,
Yeah.
that it looked fake. It was so pretty, but it really was so pretty. And we took
Mhm.
Monty, the dog who
Yeah.
just loved it because he was a hiking dog. And
Mhm.
the way it works in that canyon, because it's
Mhm.
below, the canyon part is below sea level,
Mm.
there's always water running through the bottom.
Wow.
So it had rained a lot the night before. So I called before we drove 3.5 to 4 hours to say,
Mm.
hey, is it hikeable? And
Mhm.
and they were like, there's always water, but yeah, it's hikeable, and you
Nice.
may get a little muddy. And so the dog just was in heaven because he got to like he was a hiking dog. Like he got
Yeah.
muddy, and everybody of course lost their mind when they saw him, and he was
Yeah.
very well
Mm.
behaved,
Auntie
and
so
we took
cute.
pictures. And we are now those dog owners that we take our dog places and take pictures.
I love it. It's funny. I was just looking at a picture of me and Monty on your back porch yesterday.
Right?
So
Oh, and he's
yeah.
better, well behaved. He gets better. I always say he is such a good dog, and he's on his way to being a great dog. And so this holiday season,
Yeah.
he went hiking. He went
Okay.
to his first restaurant outdoor experience because we went
Okay.
out to eat after the hike, and he behaved
Nice.
very well.
Good job,
And then
Monty.
he went to Sam's apartment for
Mhm.
Thanksgiving. So Sam hosted us
Mhm.
for Thanksgiving. And I was really proud of him because, he was a pandemic puppy. And
Mhm.
so there's some skills that it's like, does he have them? Does he not have them? Do we
Mm.
have them? I mean, I
Oh.
know we're how many years out, but still, like, I feel like we lost so many skills during that time. But we
Yeah.
were at Sam's apartment, and he needed to go to the bathroom. He went to the door, he alerted in a place that he'd never been before. I was just, you I was so proud. So proud.
Good job. That's beautiful.
Right? So we had a great time. We relaxed, we created, we connected, we
Mhm.
watched some disturbing TV, like,
Mhm.
all the things.
I
So,
hear you.
right? Did you watch
Yes.
anything good?
Oh, what did we watch? We watched a couple of different things. I would have to think about it. Don't get me lying right now. Let me think about it and see what was on the watch list. What I was really thinking about is crocheting. This blanket, that's what I was
Oh,
looking forward to, and your
ooh.
blanket is of course on the list, and I'm doing one stitch at a time. I'm like, I wonder when I'll be on Christine's blanket. I'm thinking like the summer sometime next year, So I was like, let
So
me tell her it's gonna be a Christmas present next year.
So Cynthia's gonna laugh her butt off about this because
Uh,
she's been adjacent to our family for
uh,
25 plus years. This is the way our family rolls. She's
mm,
probably still owed Christmas presents from a couple of years ago from members of my
okay.
family. So
Mm,
just know that's okay.
warms
That
my
mean you're
heart.
part of the family.
Thank you
Like, all
for
right.
that. Yeah. And we're talking about it. I know today we're talking about physical wellness and the holidays and Thanksgiving, but it's been such a shock of, oh, this is what people do. I didn't know people talk this much. I've been over here with, limited family, no
Oh,
family. I'm like, oh yeah, I
right.
have no idea. No idea.
Right,
So
because
I saw it's all
you
new,
were in a
baby.
completely new family
Mm.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah, and not like I've had the opportunity to be the oldest, the youngest in foster care, but in a family consistently was not it. So I'm pulling all
right,
my team references, and I guess I am more used to being in a team than I am a family.
right,
Um, but I look forward to it being, camaraderie, collaboration, and everything. His family
right.
is amazing at that. So
Right,
yeah,
and families can be tricky, right?
they
Because of
definitely
old
can be.
roles and
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities. And today we're talking about rewiring your relationship with alcohol. So if you throw
Oh.
in alcohol or other substances, like woo, yeah, we were with our nuclear family, not larger family,
Mm,
and we're getting pictures from like the larger family and things like that.
mm.
And um, yeah, my Aunt Rosie, which have you ever met Aunt Rosie?
I don't think so. Not yet.
One of the top 5 funniest people on the planet.
Mm,
And, so she's having some of our cousin Maida's
mm.
flan, which is the
Okay.
best flan I have ever tasted. Like, it is so
Mm,
good. I was like, "Maida, I've tried to recreate this." She's like, "Oh, it's the pan." So she went to Mexico.
mm,
The next time she went to Mexico, she got me the flan pan and sent me the
mm.
flan pan with her recipe in it. Top notch. So,
Beautiful.
but this is how our family rolls. Aunt Rosie doesn't send me a happy Thanksgiving. She doesn't send me anything except a picture of the flan. And I send back hashtag rude because I'm not there to eat it.
Oh,
There's certain family things that it's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, like it's not. this holiday without this? Like
Yeah.
and food, I used to talk about this with a lot of different groups, but what has to be on the table for Thanksgiving
Yeah.
holiday for you?
And see, you asked about that earlier and about traditions and what we were
Mhm.
building. And it's
Mhm.
interesting because this year, what we've been used to, what we were building in the space in the Cape right now, families here, they're not just traveling in state or we're traveling out of state, which is what we've been doing for the past few years. Now it's us building it together. So it's instead of it being year 6, it's year 1. You know what I mean? And so for
Right?
me, being in and out of so many families and where I've been in my life, really it's just about being together. I was
Mm,
usually with my godmom, um, helping her wash the dishes or cook, or with somebody's family growing up. You know
mhm.
what I mean? So usually it looks like me spending intentional time with somebody. Of course, I'm there on purpose because I wouldn't have been there unless I was
Right.
there on purpose. And I'm absolutely helping, so I'm prepping, I'm cleaning, I'm doing something to get us ready.
But
And
what's
that's what it
one
looks like.
dish? What's one dish?
It
Is
hasn't
there
even
one
been
dish?
dishes because just like family, we didn't have a lot of money to have food. I
Yeah.
was there because there was no food at my house. So
Yeah.
whatever was at somebody else's house was what it was. And I was in no way, shape, or form the person to say, this
Right.
is what needs to be there.
Right.
So things I look forward to, I love cranberry sauce. I haven't
Mm.
had any yet
Oh,
this
oh,
year,
you
but I
know,
didn't feel like I missed out.
this is a major question,
Okay.
controversial question.
Okay.
Homemade or jellied in the can?
And see, I'm not the one to answer. I want to practice making homemade, and then I'll have more data. I can come back with my
Okay.
chef notes.
All
What do
right.
you think?
I like both. Like this
Okay.
year, I made jalapeno cranberry jelly to
Mm,
give to folks.
yeah.
And Joe always has to have cranberry jelly. Like it
Okay.
has to be. So if you're listening to this, y'all, either live or later, put it in the comments.
Let us know.
Jellied canned or homemade or both.
Mm,
I'm a both. Cranberry,
okay.
like I like cranberries.
Yeah, I'll
So
probably be both.
that's like, come on. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's figure it out. But
So
yeah.
yeah, we do a little different tradition. I wrote a article on LinkedIn last week, I think it
Mm,
was, about like holding two truths at one time.
I
And I
saw
was
the title.
talking about that I really struggle with Thanksgiving in the United States because of what
Mm-hmm.
it was built on and
Right.
a false narrative. But I love connection and I love gratitude and, I love affirmation.
Yeah.
So, what our family has done the last couple of years is on the actual day, we do takeout from a local ethnic business to support
Mm-hmm.
them. And then if
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have more traditional food, we do that later in the week, or well, actually, it's because I love to get turkeys on sale the day after
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving.
Wise.
My Scottish ancestors are like, "Ooh, save that money." Um,
Yes.
but this year we just did appetizers and played games, and it was
Yeah.
super fun.
I love
So
that.
I like recreating, like taking some traditional things. But one thing we did that was a
Yeah.
tradition that my kids loved and lost their minds about is my great aunt Betty. And I think we talked about her a couple of years ago on the show when she
Mm-hmm.
passed away. But what she used to do is she would make these monster cookies and she
Mm,
would put them in a tin. And when the whole family would show up, people had to vote on how many cookies were in the tin. And if
mm,
you got the closest or on the mark, you won the tin of
wow.
cookies. So some years she'd make them tiny, some years she'd make them giant, somewheres. So I did that as a surprise for my kids. Oh,
Mm,
you'd have thought. I mean, it took them right back to that moment. And
mm.
Alex, always been good at this, won
Yeah.
both tins. Won both because there were so she shared,
Wow.
but she
Nice.
was on it. She was like,
Okay. Oh, I love that. That reminds me of like White Elephant in our Christmas games, but
right,
yeah, I love that. Games is definitely something that I like. I like games and us talking over TV.
right. Okay, one more thing before we do
Okay.
official and we jump
Yeah,
in.
yeah, we gotta
Games,
start.
games.
Mm.
Jackbox TV. Have you heard of it?
You told me about it, and I like how you use the phone. Is it like a code thing, kind of how they
Yeah.
do? How does it
So
work?
my kids introduced me to it. You go to
Mm.
the app, on your smart TV. You go to
Yeah.
Luna. Luna.com, Luna app or something like that. And then on there is a program called Jackbox TV. And
Mm,
there's some that are free and there are some that you download and pay for, but there's plenty of free. And then what happens is you either do the QR code or you put in the
mm,
code
mm.
and you get to play the game.
Love
So
it.
super fun, a lot of trivia, but silly trivia. There was this drawing game where you drew on your phone and then
Wow.
you people tried to guess what it was. I mean,
Phew.
ridiculous. It was so much fun. So,
Good.
and what's really cool about it is if you have, I think most of the games you have to have 3 to 4 players to even start, but
Mm,
some of the games you can do with 30 people in the room.
wow.
So, like, you can do big groups of people,
That'll be
and
fun.
that seemed like just ridiculous fun. I mean, we're game players at my family,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, you
sometimes
are.
people get fussy about which games, right? Like,
Mm,
oh, this one doesn't want to play this one, or this one doesn't
mm.
want to play this one. So, all right, let's kick this show off.
I
We
like
let's
that.
let's get going.
Okay, y'all. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon best-selling publisher, author, and all-natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self-care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, best selling author and publisher, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
Yes, together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co-founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week to have intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, in life, in relationships. How do we do this? And we bring on
Mhm.
guests that can help us figure it out.
Yes, yes, yes. You were asking me about shows, Oh, and I don't know if I've told you about this podcast, Christine. I think you would really like it with how much food we follow on our Instagram, on our podcast Instagram. It's called Your
What?
Mama's Kitchen. And they had some really funny, and I mean, I think it was a holiday episodes over the last few years,
Hmm.
but I love her podcast in general. Each episode has somebody, it might be a celebrity, it might be a celebrity chef, somebody who has a cookbook, but they talk about the kitchen that they grew up in. And
Mm,
people talking about the holidays and
mm,
sugar cookies that people would bring, and just things from, like you were talking about, different cultures and what they did to be together with the community over the holidays. That
mhm.
really
And it was
you
called
know
My Mama's Kitchen?
it's called Your Mama's Kitchen.
Your Mama's Kitchen. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
really good.
my ancestors were so present with me this last week. I did a
Mm,
lot of cooking and things that I often don't have time for because of travel. And,
yeah.
my paternal grandmother, Lila Ruth Nichols, was a homemaker. Like she canned, I mean, she grew her own food.
Mm.
She did 3 meals a day. She was shocked that I didn't cook 3 meals a day. I'm like, "Nanny, I am not starting out that way because that is not the way we go to continue."
I hear
Um,
you.
so, um, but I do like I really feel her at this time of year. Like I love to
Mm,
batch cook at this time of year and I love to
yeah.
meal prep at this time of year. So, like I got this great sale on this turkey
Yeah.
and I made turkey tortilla soup, which my dad was very present for that. Like that was
Mm,
his thing he would do. I made turkey ramen. I'm just, the farming ancestors about like use every bit,
yeah.
and I made 2 really big batches of bone broth, and like it
Yeah.
was so satisfying because here in Atlanta it was cold and it was rainy and it
Yeah.
was not the kind of weather you want to be out, running around in. And so it was fun to just kind of cozy up and get get happy
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, we were saving bones, and bone broth is definitely like a staple on the menu when the temperature is dropping, so I love to hear that you guys are doing that. And I know you talked about the tortilla soup. I usually think about it when we get sick. I didn't know that your dad was the inspiration for that.
Oh yeah. He would always, yes, chicken tortilla soup is his when you get sick, but he would always do it after Thanksgiving too, because same thing,
Hmm.
bone broth, you make it up,
Hmm.
you freeze it. Like, I didn't eat a lot of it because we had other things we were doing, but I made it up and popped it in the freezer. So if
Yeah.
somebody gets sick, it's ready, or if I'm
Mhm.
just cold and need a really good bowl of soup.
Hello. And I just had some soup that I made from some of the bone broth. Had some butternut squash,
Right?
some noodles,
Oh,
like yeah, some chopped up chicken.
gosh.
Um,
Talking about
so I love it.
physical wellness,
You
right?
know, and that's what I think about when you were talking about homemaker. I would love to go more into that with our guests because I think that's where a lot of this angst of how am I supposed to do it? This is what I saw. This is what I'm trying to do. But what do I actually want to do? And how does that all play out? And what do I do to cope and recharge and refuel after all of that? As I got older, I started watching my friends become moms. I'm seeing how much women drink. And we don't talk about it all the time. I was surprised that it's a normal thing, like to not have the support that you need and of course try to get it other places. I didn't know that for so many of us women, it was in a bottle, but that makes
Mm,
sense. And so hopefully this conversation will give some structure to kind of like where some of that angst might be coming from and how we can have better coping mechanisms and tools in
right.
our toolbox.
Well, let you ready for me to give the definition and then read her
Absolutely.
bio and get her up here? Let's do
Let's
it.
do it.
So, today, y'all, we're talking about physical wellness. And physical wellness is the ability to maintain a quality of life that allows you to thrive in your daily activities without undue fatigue or physical stress. Physical wellness recognizes that our daily choices, habits, and behaviors have an impact on our overall health, well being, and quality of life.
Yes. And y'all, we talked about Dr. Cynthia Phelps being our guest today. If you've listened to Women Connected in Wisdom, you've definitely heard her name before. I know we just said her name. We just said Cynthia, but make sure you put the doctor on it, okay? But we'll get into her bio so that if you haven't heard all the amazing stuff that she does and who she is, you will know who she is and bring her up on stage. Dr. Cynthia Phelps is an international speaker, certified mindfulness instructor, and the founder of InnerAlly, a company that builds evidence-based tools to improve mental wellness. She has extensive experience in learning and behavior change and has been developing mental health technologies such as online courses and mobile apps since 2009. Her background as a researcher in neuroscience helps her create effective programs and products that not only improve mental health but also soothe the soul. Phelps started InnerAlly after having a profound recovery experience through implementing self-compassion in her own life. And now she teaches and does personal and group coaching to help others to make their own breakthroughs. Help us welcome to the stage Dr. Cynthia Phelps.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Hi,
Hello,
Dr.
hello.
Phelps. How you
Hello,
feeling? Welcome
friend.
to the stage.
Oh, happy to be in connection with you both.
Thank you so much.
Our listeners hear your name, probably so because you were one of our first guests as the
Hmm.
founder of InnerAlly, and you've been a guest co-host, and we're so glad to have you back. What'd you think
Yes.
about really important questions first? What'd you think about our new intro music?
Mm,
Beautiful.
Did you like
uh,
it? It's kind of chill and
Melodic.
right.
yeah, glad you
We've been
enjoyed it.
playing around with it.
Hmm. So I know we talked about a lot as we came on. When you think about the holidays and rewiring your relationship with alcohol and where you see your clients and some of our ladies at, where would you start when you have this conversation?
It's interesting that you were talking about women in particular and drinking. The holidays, everything is a little more focused,
Mm,
but it was probably about 20 years ago that the beverage industry really, really targeted women,
mm.
particularly with wine.
Okay.
And it was a total marketing push. And what you saw in social media is all of a sudden, like mommy wine groups started showing up. And it was like this culture that was built, but it was built by the industry. It was
Mm,
not built from the ground up by women who were exhausted by life and wanted to turn to alcohol. That was
okay.
not the way that it rolls. And so
Thank you.
just to know that if you are seeing, and there's still plenty of this, like,
Mhm.
mommy wine culture, or, having a glass of, or having cocktails after work, after a hard day of work, because you're a working woman. These things are often culturally pressed upon us. And
Mhm.
so, you can feel empowered to disengage from those narratives if it's not serving you, right?
Mhm. I love that. And that's what I love about your work with InnerAlly and why we bring it up so much. I was talking about this opportunity I had to speak at Paul Mitchell, and in holding space for somebody that was in the audience, one of my students that day, I realized I needed to hold more space for myself.
Mm.
So can you share? And I thought I was good at this, right? I know Dr. Cynthia Phelps, we talk about InnerAlly, we've done all this work and still got to get better. Can you talk about how self-compassion helped you with your journey? What does that look like to somebody who is drinking alcohol a lot for whatever reason to have a better relationship with that voice?
Right. Well, I think you've hit on the real key.
Mm,
And, even though we titled this Rewire Your Relationship with Alcohol, really the thing that is at the root of it is rewiring your relationship to yourself.
mhm,
And so that's what Inner Ally is all about. It was built on my experience of running into the concept of self-compassion.
mhm,
And in my life, I had been through some really, like a really difficult period of loss, where I went through a divorce, I lost a stepson, I lost like a huge amount of money.
mhm.
I lost a part of a business. It was really painful, and a bunch of friends,
Yeah.
and so forth. And I didn't have the skills to be able to maneuver through that emotionally. My family is one that doesn't really do psychology, and so that was looked down upon.
Right.
And so I didn't end up with any tools. And so for me, alcohol was something that allowed my brain to relax. It allowed my brain to slow down a little bit. And it was something that I was like a good part of my life, because I tended to be a little wound up, and my brain tended to like have a lot of stories and things in it. And so a little bit of alcohol was actually quite helpful to calm all of that down.
Mhm,
Unfortunately, when it's the only tool you have in your toolbox, I really ended up misusing it and using it way too much. And there are some physiological changes that can happen when you use substances over and over again, to where you reach this point where you're kind of not in charge of the whole thing anymore. And I had reached that point, and I went to rehab. I actually put myself into rehab, which is not the most normal story that you hear out there. But
right.
I realized what the path that I was going down. And so that was the only solution that I saw out there. I knew that 12-step programs existed. I also knew, they had some structures in them that I wasn't sure I wanted to sign up for. They're pretty patriarchal, pretty Christian oriented in many ways, to where the belief structure is dictated more to you of how you need to do your recovery. Not a very good follower. And so that didn't really appeal to me. And so I wanted to do a hospital type of a rehab, like an evidence-based rehab. And so that's what I did. And it taught me so many things about how to quit drinking and how to remove alcohol from my life. But it didn't change the thing that caused me to drink. And that was, I had a lot of really uncomfortable emotions. I had a lot of shame because of my divorce. I ended up losing a job over it. And that level of shame was something that, if not addressed, it was going to take me down. And it was in the process of trying to take me down when I ran across a research article on
Mm.
self compassion. And I'd never heard of such a thing. I was like, wait a minute, you can be kind to yourself? And so
Yes.
that really set me on a new path to change how I related to myself.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain that.
I love that. I mean, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And I also, it's such a powerful origin story for how InnerAlly came about and how you work with people to be kind to themselves. So, like, would you tell our listeners a little bit about that? Because I'm sure there's folks listening that are like, I'm not kind to myself, or what do you mean people can be kind to themselves? Or even would you break down for folks what it means about the inner critic?
Sure. Yes, so when I found out you could be nice to yourself, and I found out there was actually a whole research-based program for learning how to do that, which I immediately immersed myself into. And I got really into it so much so that I did the teacher training and was on my path to become a certified teacher of mindful self-compassion. And in that process, I had this realization because one of the teachers was modeling how she spoke to herself in her own head. And it was just, it sounded like this. It sounded like, oh, darling, I'm so sorry you're having to go through this difficulty. And my brain was like, what? That's how you speak to yourself? Like, there was not a shred inside of me that had a nurturing voice towards myself. It was all very militant, very shame based, very much like you need to hide who you really are. You
Wow.
know, you need to like suck it up. Like, it was really cruel on the inside of me. And so when I realized, like, I heard her voice talking to herself, and to me, that sounded like the most nurturing grandma ever, like the avatar grandmother, everybody's best grandmother qualities, like, rolled into one. And so this idea was birthed from there because I was like, well, if you can talk to yourself like a grandmother, like I want to have other ways to talk to myself. So it was like then the cheerleader was born and like all of these other ways of being able to be kind and supportive, and to lead yourself to being empowered and soothed when you're struggling. That's really how InnerAlly was born. And because I am, I don't know, I feel like I was so low in my level of self-compassion. Whenever I tried to speak kindly to myself, like my own inner critic would just laugh me right out of the room. It was so hard. And so but I was very persistent, like, because I had this, I knew that this was what was going to save me. And so I was so persistent that I ended up creating this step by step process on how to create inner language to speak to yourself in a way that's compassionate, that both is going to pass your inner critic test and also creates the feelings in your body that you really need. And so it's a very like tiny steps that you take, and it's iterative building this inner language, and it's customizable to like who you are. And it's kind of like 1 2 3, like you're allowed to do this, like here's the structure and here's the support system. And it was really like what I needed for myself.
Well, and I can testify to how powerful it is because I've taken your class before. And I love the cards. I was looking around my desk because often I have a deck of them on the desk, but I didn't know you were popping on today. And so I don't have them at my fingertips, but I love your deck of cards. I know you're working on a new one right now, which I'm so thrilled about. Um, Tell our listeners about what you're currently working on and how you came to it. I know it because you and I were talking on the phone about it, but tell folks what you're currently working on.
Right, right. I think like really it is aligned once again with like the topic for today, which is like rewiring your relationship with yourself as the way to change your relationship with alcohol, or really to change your relationship with anything, to be honest with you. And so, physical health is something that's been very present for me this year. I have replaced a couple knees, and I've also been doing trauma therapy all the whole year. And one of the things that I realized coming out of those experiences is oftentimes you would have difficult emotions, difficult emotions around being in pain, or difficult emotions around recovering, difficult emotions around after trauma therapy. And I really didn't want to sit in that space. I wanted to shift myself out of it. And uh, that's when I got the idea of being able, like, I just thought, well, okay, Cynthia, if this isn't how you want to feel, how do you want to feel? And it immediately I flashed back to a moment in my childhood where we would travel, and my parents would often drive at night, so the kids would be sleeping. And I remember when we would get home, my dad would like scoop me up out of the van and carry me into the house and put me to bed. And that was the best feeling. Like, I would definitely make sure that I was faking sleeping before we got home.
Right.
Because it felt so like I was felt so cared for, and I felt safe, and just warm, yummy, and supportive feelings. And so I immediately like grabbed my sketchbook and I kind of sketched out a little picture of our van just to remind myself. And that's when I was like, you know what? Like, how else do I want to feel? And I started mining like my past experiences where I've had moments in my life. And we've all had these where, just little magic moments where you're like, oh, maybe moments of awe, or moments of soothing, or moments of excitement. And I just started sketching. And then what I realized is I had kind of created this menu of ways that I wanted to feel. And so when I was coming home from trauma therapy, I could just look at my notebook and I could pick off of like these little pictures I drew. And I started also using it like at night if I was having some ruminating thoughts. Like, I didn't have to go get my notebook because I just like I had embodied them, right? Because like I had created the little pictures and described them. And so it's ended up being like a really cool tool to add to the InnerAlly tool set. And I was like, I want other people to have this tool. And so I'm putting
Right.
together I put together a workshop, and I'm going to be teaching it the second Saturday of January. And so we're going to go through the whole process that I went through. And so you're going to end up with some tangible, some moments to be in your body somatically with these emotions, times of mindfulness and practice, and also some time for creativity.
Mm. I love weaving it all together. It makes me think of Sheila K. Collins' new book, "In the Art of Grieving," how art and art making help us grieve and live our best lives. I know you're not specifically talking about grieving, but a lot of times those
Mhm.
difficult emotions are around that.
Especially around the holidays, like a lot of times your grief can
Right.
get, because you realize the people who are not there with you, and you realize that people that you love are not the way you really want them to be sometimes.
I was having one of those moments this morning, actually, because yesterday would have been Dad's birthday.
Mm,
So, I didn't really allow myself to fully grieve that or process it yesterday. I just kind of I did a few things, but not my normal, like what how I would do it. So it kind of snuck up on me this morning. But
mm.
Shannon, when you think about this, like, is there a memory that comes up for you or something that you would want to doodle or draw as far as a good memory to put in your
You know
notebook?
what's you know what's funny? I can definitely resonate with what Sheila said about wow, sorry, we're talking about Sheila K. Collins, what you
Mhm,
said, Cynthia, what Cynthia
mhm,
said about being scooped up out of the car,
mhm,
but it also reminds me of when I would fake sleep in the morning.
mhm.
And I think the last time I did that, my dad hung me upside down in the shower. So it's like I already didn't want to take a shower as a little girl. Now I'm upside down and sleep. Like this is not what I was planning when I said I was sleep. Um, so that popped into my mind, right? Because I get it. And I was like, and then the shower. Um, and then it's funny because I thought about, I shared with you ladies how I'm realized that I'm more used to being on teams and in families, right?
Mhm,
Um, how I want to feel popped into my mind when I was voted the team MVP by the staff as a server. And this is right before COVID. And I had been voted MVP as a manager of that staff and had stepped down because my mom was sick. I said, you know what? Instead of me investing in the team, let me invest in my family. And the team on both levels said, hey, Shannon holds it down. And that acknowledgement of the work that I do and holding space for the team through different,
Mm,
difficult seasons, I appreciated that. And so that's what I thought
mm.
mhm.
about, that appreciation for hard work put in.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
You know, that experience that you had, like, picking up the memory as a kid, I
Mm-hmm.
think it can be a little tricky because
Mm-hmm.
there were some when I was rooting around in my memory, there were some that came up as really good emotions, and then the difficult parts was coming in and, like, taking
Mm-hmm.
over, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay," like, I had to decide, like, is this a emotion that I can hang on to without, like, the baggage of the
Mm-hmm.
things maybe that came later,
Yeah.
and some I let go of, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then some I'm like, no, I think I can hold on just to that one little piece. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, and I think like part of what is like creating a different relationship with yourself is about allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And, uh, Christine actually was asking me the other day, I was, like, talking about something difficult that came up for me, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, well, did you do the process that that you're developing for the workshop?" I was kinda like,
Yeah. Good job, Christine.
"No, I didn't." Because, like, these are like, what I was like, I needed to be in the difficult in
Yeah.
that
mhm,
moment, like, I needed to process some of that difficult emotions, and it wasn't the right time for me to shift into something else, and so I think that's really important to think of through the lens of how you're being kind to yourself
mhm,
instead of, like, the whole like the way that I think about affirmations sometimes is sometimes they just hurt so bad, right? Because you don't believe them and you're like, I'm never gonna get there.
Right.
and I think it's important to just be gentle and work with yourself where you are.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
I
Christine, what
love what were you gonna say, Shannon?
I was gonna ask about a memory that came up for you or somewhere that you would reach back to.
Well, I was actually thinking about it today because I was really doing some grief work around my dad not being on this plane. Like
Yeah.
I felt him so strongly over the holidays while I was cooking and I was cooking some of his recipes and so I really do believe that we have relationships after somebody's gone. But I was missing him. I was missing the fact that I couldn't call him yesterday and sing to him. It's a tradition in our family that we sing and he would always
Mm-hmm.
make this joke afterwards about how I thought I sent you money so you wouldn't sing to me. So, I was missing just those tangible things. And one of my memories is well, I have multiple memories of fishing with my dad. Like, my dad didn't really like crowds and he loved fishing. He loved being on the bank of a tank. Like, if it was the holidays when we were growing up, we would go to my grandparents' house, which was on a farm, and they had stock ponds for their cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, because I was the oldest, I would go out with dad to go fishing because he didn't want to be in the house with all the family. He was too many people, and so we would go out fishing. And I remember this one time. It was so cold, but it was so cool because it was just dad and I, and he built a fire on the bank of the stock tank because he really didn't want to be in. I can't
Yeah.
remember if he was fighting with his sister or what was going on, but he really did not want to be there. So he built us a fire and we sat by the campfire and fished. And it was in those moments, it was just really sweet connection. And we would talk about things that we usually wouldn't talk about, or we'd just sit with each other in that what's a good word for it? Like that contentment of silence
Mhm.
that's not like a weird silence. It's just
Mhm.
like a you're happy and you're content and you're hanging out. And
Mm,
so those are some of my memories that I think about with my dad and my childhood that are just that feeling of peace. I think it would be peace
mm.
Mhm.
is what it would be.
That's beautiful.
And that's
That makes sense.
something that you can feel in your body, right?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
and I had never really thought about the idea of conjuring up particular emotions. And in fact, emotions are tricky, and you can be in a really space where you're angry or disappointed, or one of those grief, one of those really difficult emotions. It can be really hard to shift.
Mhm.
Sometimes impossible to shift. And so I think, like, I had never really thought about the idea of how I would want to shift something like that. But what I really keep coming back to is this, how I'm relating to myself, right? And so
Mm.
this is how it comes back to alcohol, because when I related to myself in a way where I was honoring myself and I was doing the best for myself, like, that did not include drinking in an irresponsible way, drinking in a way that harmed me, basically. And so as soon as I shifted my relationship to a more self-compassionate relationship, then I could fundamentally see that I was harming myself. Now, did I wake up hungover a million times before this realization? Yes. Did, could you, like, just from the outside, clearly see how much harm it was causing? Yes. But when you're in it, it can be really hard to understand that that is a form of self-harm.
Mhm.
And but with self-compassion, it just, like, became so clear to me, because I was working on creating a compassionate and kind relationship with myself. And this other thing was not on the menu.
Right? For me, I found that it gets easier as I get older. I had a very different relationship with alcohol. Like I definitely drank in college, and there were some moments that I'm not proud of. Um, but really, I was never a huge drinker after college. But I drank enough that it was like I realized my body doesn't like it. Like,
Yeah.
my body is not a fan,
Mhm.
and part of that's the allergies and things I have, but, used to, younger me would drink to be socially polite or things like that, and when I
Mhm.
realized just what you're saying, like, it was causing me harm.
Yeah.
Like, it was even one drink like, some people, like, now, they were like, "Oh, have a glass of wine." I'm like, "No, thank you," because it's not worth it. Like, I
Mhm.
don't feel good,
Yeah.
and putting myself first to say and what I love nowadays, especially around the holidays and on Instagram, you can find people doing incredible recipes that are mocktails that are fun and creative, and you can do all kinds of things to still participate in the social aspect of it without the part that if you're sensitive to it or have an issue with it that hurts you. Like
Mhm.
having that, I love the way you framed it, Cynthia, about having the self-care and self-compassion that you're like, "No, this is damaging to me, and I don't have to do that." Like, I can have that relationship with myself.
Yeah, that's really what was at the core of healing for me. And,
Mhm.
I walked into my relationship with alcohol very low on self-compassion. So, it may not be the solution that's going to be for everyone. But I think if you're low in self-compassion, well, I published a paper on it, actually. I know you're at risk. So you're at risk for alcohol misuse and substance misuse if you're low on the levels of self-compassion. And so we don't really know for sure. It's a little chicken egg problem. We don't know if you're low on self-compassion first and then you end up with a disorder, or if you end, or the other way around. Like,
Mhm.
because if you think about drinking or substance use as consistent harm over time to
Mhm.
yourself, that is the opposite of self-compassion. So
Right.
and I would, if somebody were to ask me, like, what do I really think, what I would say, it's both. that
Right.
that if you, my family created a situation where I ended up with really low self-compassion, and so when you add alcohol to that, it's problematic. But then when I added alcohol to that consistently, it was self-harming, which is the opposite of
Mhm.
self-compassion. And so you're just in this kind of downward
Loop.
spiral, right? And so rewiring your relationship with yourself to be gentle and kind and loving, and also like mama bear, like, no, you're not going to that party.
Right.
or
Right.
whatever it needs to be to take care of
Mhm.
yourself. Like, it changes from day to day, and throughout recovery and throughout your life.
Well, and I was thinking about what you said earlier about literally the campaign. Like
Yeah.
our society and the way capitalism and the way the campaign, I think I've mentioned it on the show before, but when I was in grad school, I was introduced to a book called Can't Buy Me Love by Jean Kilborn.
Mhm.
And it talks about, and it is about this, it's about self compassion or our self esteem, and how the advertising market tries to target the places that we feel vulnerable in order to think, oh, if you just drink this, or if you
Mhm.
just buy this, or if you, then you're going to have that feeling.
Yep.
And things don't do that for us. Like it's this work that you're talking about, these incremental steps, and it's not an instant thing. It's a
Mhm.
companioning with yourself of the
Yeah.
work.
It's a
And
process.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
If you really look at the numbers, particularly with alcohol, if you look at like how is the industry making money and who are they making money from? There's really a small percentage of individuals, and these are the individuals with a drinking problem. And so it's
ah,
really disgustingly exploitive.
targeted. Yeah.
It's very similar to gambling. It's like
You lost me.
those people that have that problem are the
Mhm.
ones that are losing all the money,
Mm.
right? Like,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so the industry is pretty icky.
Mhm. Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It is it's an interesting thing to be contemplating this time of year, especially because
Yeah.
lots of ads, lots of numbing to be around difficult emotions or feelings or grief and loss or families or dynamics or places that we don't feel like we fit anymore. So,
Well, I definitely want to encourage people to find resources for themselves. And since we're women connected in wisdom, I want to share a resource for female identifying people. It's called She Recovers, and it's a nonprofit that started in Canada, but it's also a nonprofit in the US now. And what I love about the way that they do recovery is that they support any path you want to take to recovery,
Mm.
is and they trust you to get help and to create the path for yourself. They call it the patchwork of recovery, because
Mhm.
you can use
like the quilt.
any, right? You can use as many techniques. Like if you like something from the 12 steps, you can pull from that. If you like something from religion, you can pull from that. And so the group is also really interesting in that you can be recovering from anything. There's no
Mm,
rules. You can be recovering from grief, cancer, alcohol misuse. Um, there is behavioral addictions that people address in the group as well. And what is fundamentally interesting about it to me is that the problems are all the same. It doesn't matter what you are recovering from. And so it is about rewiring that relationship with yourself to rewire your relationship with whatever kind of substance or behavior or alcohol or whatever that
You want to
you
change?
are, that is a coping mechanism that is no longer serving you, right?
Mm, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
beautiful.
that we could keep talking, but I'm paying attention to time. So I think we got to pop up here wisdom connected in action. Wisdom in
Hmm.
action, connected in action. Woo! You can tell I've been off for 3 weeks. I can't talk anymore.
It's okay. Yeah, so physical wellness. Who wants to go first? Cynthia, you want to go first, or would you like to go last?
Tell me the assignment again.
Got you. So what we talk about every week is what are we doing intentionally for ourselves, right? We talk through the podcast about what we do professionally, how we help our clients, all of our good work, but we're always, of course, like you said, doing things for ourselves too. So for your physical wellness, and again, you can go last if you want to. What's your wisdom in action this week?
Well, I am definitely taking care of my body right now by by riding on. I have a recumbent bike in my house,
Okay.
and it is such a blessing to have it, and it is something that is helping me get some more stamina and some more energy back. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm also really paying close attention to how I'm feeling on the inside during the day, in particularly around food. When I reach for food and when I'm thinking of food, well, I'm not sure if thoughts are involved, but when I
Mm-hmm.
reach for food,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking a little bit more about my physical wellness in that, like, what is this all about? Do I need to soothe something inside of me? Is that why I'm reaching for food?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I just hungry? Is it lunchtime?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Nice. Okay. What about you, Christine?
When the question was asked, my body very clearly said, drink more water.
Mm.
Because when it gets cold, I
Mm-hmm.
forget to drink water.
Mm-hmm.
I want something warm, and I can, as I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, you're a little dehydrated. So
Mm-hmm.
I think for my physical wellness, I'm going to go back to basics and drink more water. And I recently had blood work done, and I'm short on what is the sunshine vitamin? Is it D or E? I always get
D.
confused.
D.
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 Mm-hmm.
So I need to take my supplement and I need
Mm-hmm.
to stand in the sunshine if the sun will shine. So
Nice.
those are my back to basics, going simple this week. What about you, Shannon?
Nice. Yeah, I will definitely stay hydrated. I did excellent this season on my drinking and everything. And drinks are usually on the menu. Like if they're there, they're free, baby, they are happening. But this year I was like, no, I'll do the sugar and something else, and just not even specifically counting sugar, but knowing that I don't want to do too much. I would rather eat it. Drinking is off. I actually said I was gonna wait till the holidays and we'll push it. I had a shot, did a little celebratory something, for our engagement since we came out here, and I was looking forward to it. So I was weighing the yes and no, but staying hydrated. For me, that's just the focus on making sure I have what I need. Make sure you add the good stuff, the non-negotiables, the time, all of that stuff I've been thinking about this holiday season. So hashtag stay hydrated.
Mm, I love
Hmm.
it. Well, Cynthia, we always love having you as a guest on
Yeah,
Women
we do.
Connect in Wisdom. One of our authors, one of our friends, one of our colleagues.
Editors. Gotta
We
shout
are
out the
just
editor.
so grateful for you
Yeah.
and your work in the world. And
Hmm.
we will put your class information on our show notes, your website, so people can reach you. I've
Yes.
tagged She Recovers. So thank you for that amazing resource. And we're
Yes.
just so grateful for your work in the world and that we're connected to
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the invite.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You're
Talk to you
welcome.
soon, friend.
Thank you for joining us, Cynthia.
Ugh,
So good.
so good.
Hmm.
All right.
Mm.
Anything we need to shout out before we wrap episode 209?
Mm. I don't think so. I think Dr. Phelps did an amazing job, and what really stood out for me and what she said was I didn't want to be dictated how I was going to recover. She wanted
Hmm.
this recovery outside of Christianity. And as somebody who does believe Christianity is one of my foundations and an anchor, it pains me when people say that because I think about the hurt that they must have gone through or what they think about to say, no, no, no. I love people's, how they feel about it and us being able to make a choice and that it's not forced, love, consent, and that God allows us to do that. But it reminds me of what we were talking about in church the other week about staying focused and purpose. And when I think about women connected in wisdom and why I love being here and connected to all of our ladies internationally around the world, is because of things like this. Yes, church is great for things and necessary. Therapy is great for things and necessary, but I can trust that God talks to me a certain way and still talk to myself crazy. You know what I mean? I can trust that God loves me and still not be loving to myself when I'm on that third lemon drop about to go to something else. And now we're mixing alcohol and XYZ. And so that the conversations like this and things like this is what I was thinking about with that service the other week with church. And it's like, yes, church is very important, and I'm not going to be the one to tell you that it isn't. Um, I also have found myself in those situations where we're in doctor's offices with families still looking for questions. We're looking for other things. And I'm so glad that Cynthia was able to build a platform that's, making space for people to be better relation have better relationships with themselves. And I love what she shared about, what is it? She recovers,
Mhm.
and that they
Mhm.
stretched into North America and, well, the rest of North America and not just Canada, because again I see a lot of people struggle with it. So that's what I was thinking about, and just grateful to have all the resources so anybody anywhere that needs help can get met with what they need. Yeah.
Mhm.
So just a little encouragement, if you're struggling with that over the holiday season, feeling like you should be a certain place after this very difficult year with the layoffs and the transitions and trying to figure out where you should be. I hope that you found Women Connected in Wisdom and that it's helped you be well. It's helped you be wise and be whole, like we say at the end of every show. Yeah.
Mhm.
What about
I
you?
want to give a shout out for our audiobook, which is live, which people have been
Yeah.
downloading. I'm going to put a
Yeah.
link to that in our show notes. And I hope folks will get a copy of that and let us know what you think about it, because we're pretty
Yeah.
proud of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just grateful we're back. I missed you these 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm
It was
glad to be
different.
here for a couple weeks before we
Yeah,
take it.
me
That was a
too.
long stretch.
It was,
We
wasn't
don't
it?
often take that long off. It
We
was
don't.
good, but I'm glad to be back for a couple of weeks before
Yeah.
the new year.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And like she said, the audiobook is out. Again, if you're struggling with this stuff in those different areas, it has stuff that can support you. It's heavy on the emotional and mental wellness side. And the audio makes it a lot easier if you haven't found time to read the PDF version or the print version that we've had. Listen to the audiobook and see what you think of the ladies' stories and the resources that they share. But thank you so much for being here live for our podcast today, our episode 209 as we start season 26. We'll be here live at 5 next week. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. Talk to you soon. Peace.